Please welcome Achieving the Dream Board Chair, Dr. Pam Edinger.
Good morning, everybody. Did you grab coffee, tea? Yes? Sweet tea? All right, I'm so happy to see you this morning. We're going to get started. I am very pleased to kick off this morning's plenary. We have a very dynamic panel for you on the importance of building partnerships in our communities in order to maximize opportunity for our students. Before we begin, though, we need a dose of inspiration. So I am going to welcome two of our Dream Scholars to the stage to share their stories. We are featuring our Dream Scholars throughout our plenary sessions this week. So please welcome Janae Parker from Columbus State Community College. Where are you, Janae? And then we also have Emery Sutherland from Southwestern Indian Polytechnic Institute. So did you two draw straws? Who's coming first? You know you get a hug, right?
Thank you, morning. Good morning, everyone. Give me just a second. I thought I would have a couple minutes. Okay. Wow, it's a beautiful room. I am from the smell of seafood gumbo and yellow bone skin complexions, deeply rooted in the bayous of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, where I learned that food carried my family's traditions, and a taste of my grandma's Creole jambalaya made my heart smile. I am from a single mother who worked her feet into the ground, day in and day out to support my siblings and I. She taught me at the tender age of 9 how to prepare my first meal, assist with my brother's homework, and to tuck them in at night as she worked into the morning hours at a nursing home nearby. I am from the innocence of teenage love and that ultimately ended in divorce, but how do you explain that to a child? See, where I come from, our mother was also our father. She was sweet, gentle, and kind. But listen, when I tell you my mama didn't play, and just with her glare, she'll get you back in line. I'm from summer visits to my dad's house in Detroit, Michigan, where sitting on my grandmother's porch meant endless lessons from overhearing grown-up talks, while my cousins and I ate salty watermelon slices. Imagine the conversations at neighborhood barbershops or Saturday beauty salons, or even church after the sermon on Sunday. Those are the kind of talks we had on Grandma's porch. I am from winded rides on the giant slide at Bellhour Park that would aid in my belly ache from eating foot-long coney dogs beforehand. I am from being inquisitive and always wanting an understanding of the ways of the world, where my library looks answer some of those questions and also allow my imagination to see myself as a princess, a lawyer, or a future surgeon. I am from identifying with a single story and believing that my environment only produced little girls like me and not the ones I read about in my library books. I am from realizing now that I have my own story, a story of opportunity and continued resilience, a story that gives my daughter hope and a role model to look up to. I am from an endless journey of exposure and growth, pushing through my fears and the what-ifs, shaping my future, and finally allowing others to pour into me what I consistently pour into family and friends. I am from Shanta Fields, my beautiful mother that smiles upon me in the clouds, dancing her heart out to either Mariah or Whitney. From Journey Parker, my spitting image of a daughter who has an active mind and personality that I too possessed as a child. Sandra Papillon, the name that belongs to my grandmother and first cousin who have taught me that generational curses only live on if we continue to carry the burden. I am so proud to be from Columbus State Community College. Where I matter not only as a student, but also as an individual. Where my CSCC family continues to not only show up in my life, but when they do, y'all, they show out. From Bianca Bell, Jordan and Justin Robinson, Maya Jordan, all the individuals that have fully supported my every move in figuring this whole thing called life out, I am for moving forward to be who I needed to be when I was younger. To be who I needed when I was younger. I'm a beautiful Black woman, a dedicated mother, a leader, an example, and I am from evolution through my education. Thank you, Nashville. Awesome. Oh, thank you.
Good morning. Sorry about that. Okay. Here is my poem. I am from where the land meets the ocean and where the land never touches the water. Under the same blanket of night sky, the places share where I am from. I am from a small hogan I grew up in, where the dirt touches my feet, and hauling water was my chore every day of the week. I am from the struggles that are part of life, from crushing cans for money and doing without to make ends meet. I am from my mother's love and my father's heart, and the faith of my siblings. I am from the hope my parents have for my happiness, and dreams my mother and father never saw for themselves, where education and opportunities are within my reach, and English language is not an obstacle. I am from the sleepless nights, cramming for final exams, and writing research papers, telling myself I should have started earlier. Only to realize it wouldn't be me. I am from figuring out how things work, from reading, observing, and experiencing. I am from repairing vehicles to writing computer code where mechanics meets robotics. From the code in my head to the screen on my computer, I am from the knowledge I possess and the knowledge I have yet to learn. I am from the opportunity that SIPI has given me, also Southwestern Indian Polytechnic Institute, to help continue my journey of learning and bring me closer to my future dreams. Thank you.
Janae Parker and Emery Sutherland, ladies and gentlemen. They are the reason that we do the work we do. Now to our presentation. First, Mr. Dave Bakos will offer remarks from an employer's perspective, and then our panel of different voices will share their insights. David served as the Executive Director of Global After-Sales Engineering and Service Operations for General Motors, a position he has held since 2015. Among his duties with GM, he is responsible for North America service operations activities, including brand quality and technical training. Dave began his career at GM as a cooperative education student in Pontiac Motor Division. David will be followed by our distinguished panel, so please welcome Mr. David Bakos from GM.
All right, thank you. Good morning. So thank you, Pam, for the introduction. I was actually preparing a few remarks so I could introduce myself, so I don't have to do that part. But I feel very fortunate to be here with you today because I have an opportunity to highlight a career opportunity for community college students that many of you may not be aware of. And it's a career with training that fits the theme of this plenary session of increasing economic mobility through broad community partnerships. So just to give you a little bit of additional dimension into what we do in after-sales engineering and service operations at General Motors, it's really the function that focuses on all the things we need to do once General Motors sells a car. So what we deliver to technicians are all the things they need to properly repair and diagnose a vehicle, everything a dealer needs to be compensated for a warranty claim, and everything a customer needs to understand, operate, and maintain their vehicle. And some of the deliverables that we produce are things like service parts release, different breakdowns that we might have for assembly, diagnostic procedures and electrical service software programming, development of technical training so that we can train tomorrow's technicians, and customer publications such as owner's manuals and service information, which is the industry term for how do you repair a car. Because this function interfaces frequently with General Motors dealers, we have a long-term collaboration with dealers and schools to develop future automotive technicians. And one of the prevailing trends highlighted by our dealer body over the past several years is a general shortage of technicians. So let me jump to the first slide. So the issue of lack of qualified technicians is a growing trend in the industry. Our dealers at General Motors, and this is across the industry, tell us that if they had the ability, they would hire 2 to 3 more technicians at every dealership today. On top of this, we have a pretty high attrition rate due to retirement, just due to the demographics of our current technicians. And dealers estimate that this is costing them 15 to 20% in service revenue on an annual basis. And many dealers look to us as OEMs to partner with educational institutions to properly train students to become future technicians. To give you a dimension into how big this issue is, General Motors has 4,300 dealers across the United States, 400 in Canada. If you do the math, we have 29,000 technicians in the US, another 2,000 to 3,000 in Canada. If you do the math, we're looking at about 3,000 technicians per year that attrit. On top of it, if you do the 2 to 3 per dealership, we're looking at another 10,000 technicians. So at any given point in time, we're looking for 13,000 technicians across the GM dealer body. Across the industry, there's 20,000 dealers between the United States and Canada, with 134,000 technicians employed. Between attrition and additional needs, there's more than 60,000 jobs currently waiting for qualified students to become technicians. But there's some barriers to the entry of becoming a technician. There's a perception problem. There's a perception thought that there's a high cost of entry, and certainly technicians do need to have tools, and they do need to complete technical training to be qualified. But there's also a perception that it's low pay and long hours, that technicians work in hot and cold conditions, sometimes outside in not too great environments, and that the job itself is dirty and labor intensive. And while there are certainly elements of truth to every one of those, that's not the prevailing atmosphere, and frankly, the reality is much brighter than that. In fact, most OEMs have a training program and partnerships with educational institutions to help students become technicians. And the technician shortage leads to competitive pay and benefits. To give you an insight into that, an entry-level technician graduating from a training program can expect to earn $17 to $18 an hour with an annual pay of $40,000 to $50,000. But as they continue their training and become master technicians, much more qualified, they can earn $30 an hour and have an annual salary in the range of the mid-90,000s. And on average, across the whole industry, a technician typically earns about $70,000. So it's a viable and an attractive profession. Furthermore, the technical knowledge and problem solving is something that we really highlight with technicians, that we're looking for technicians to think, not just turn a wrench. The industry itself is undergoing a tremendous transformation. Mary Barra, the chairman of General Motors, has often said that the industry is going to change more in the next 5 years than it has in the last 20. And certainly we're seeing that with the technology developments, and we need to make sure that our technicians keep up with that. And as a result, their jobs focus much more now on diagnosing problems and using advanced tools for problem solving. Growing vehicle complexity is also creating a gap between what our current technicians know and what we deliver in terms of training for technicians and what is required to properly repair a vehicle at a dealership. The bottom line on this probably represents what our traditional training provided 10 years ago in terms of preparing a technician to work at a dealership. And looking at some of the technologies that are being delivered in new vehicles today across the industry, these are not unique to General Motors. Ever-tightening emissions controls for cleaner vehicles. There's advanced safety systems such as blind zone alerts and advanced automatic emergency braking. Distributed systems. Almost every mechanical system on a vehicle today is controlled in some way by an electrical module or controller. We have control by wire. What that means is you use an electrical input to control a mechanical system. So if you think about power steering, the traditional way we did power steering was rack and pinion with a hydraulic assist with a motor. Today, we have electric power steering. So your steering wheel, when you turn it, creates an electrical signal that sends a command to a motor that then turns the rack and the pinion in your vehicle to steer the vehicle. So that's control by wire. You're starting to see that come across now as transmission shifting as well. In addition, there's connected vehicles. Almost every vehicle in the industry today has 4G LTE capability, as well as Android Auto and Apple CarPlay connectivity. You're seeing ever more electrification, whether it's mild hybrids with start-stop systems to full hybrids to full electrification. There's advanced driver assist systems such as lane keep assist and adaptive cruise control. Complex networking for all those electrical controls I talk about. We use multiplexing. It's a single wire that carries all the signals in a vehicle. It creates diagnosis issues for our technicians. They have to be able to keep up with that. Cybersecurity is a growing threat to our industry. Vehicle-to-vehicle communication is something that we're working on with the government. And then there's controls redundancy and ultimately the introduction, starting this year in commercial applications, of fully autonomous vehicles. So ultimately there's a gap between what exists currently with training and what technicians need to know to properly work on a vehicle. And it's the partnerships that OEMs have with educational institutions that help us deliver that training that's necessary to close the gap. So what I'd like to focus on, this is specific to General Motors, but as I go through this, think all OEMs. And I'll show you everybody else's programs here in a minute, because this is representative of what OEMs do with the industry. At the upper left is a program called Automotive Youth Education Systems. And it's a program that was founded by General Motors in 1996, but is now an industry-wide program supported by all OEMs. It's a partnership between automotive dealers or independent repair shops and NATEF-accredited high school automotive technology students. NATEF is the National Automotive Technicians Education Foundation. And what it does is prepare high school students for entry-level positions in the automotive industry. Just below that is a program called Skills USA. It's a national membership association serving high school, college, and middle school students who are preparing for careers in trade, technical, and skilled service occupations. And it's a partnership of students, teachers, and industry working together to offer local, state, and national opportunities for students to learn, practice personal, workplace, and technical skills. And ultimately, graduates of those two programs, AS and Skills USA, many of them go on to additional training programs. And either one that's up in the middle called the General Motors Automotive Service Education Program, or a vocational automotive training program offered by an independent, maybe a for-profit university like UTI or Lincoln Tech. And that's what ultimately prepares students to become technicians at dealerships. Once they do become technicians, every OEM has something like what General Motors has with the Service Technical College, which is training we provide to dealers and technicians to prepare them for some of those advanced systems we talked about a moment ago. So we have things like boot camps specifically focusing on systems or specialized training that's needed. We have basic automotive 101, such as the GM START program. We have positions such as maintenance and inspection technicians, which is kind of a light entry-level position for high school grads. And then ultimately, there's a training path for technicians to become master certified technicians and be able to earn that high income that I talked about a little bit earlier. And I'll talk about shifting gears in a moment because I want to focus a little bit more especially on that one. But ultimately, all of those prepare students to become technicians at dealerships. I'm going to focus a little bit more in the next couple of slides on the Automotive Service Education Program because this is a program that General Motors has with community colleges. So it's very relevant to everybody in this room. It's a program that was founded in 1979 by General Motors as a partnership between the student, the community college, the GM dealer or AC Delco Professional Service Center, and General Motors. And currently we have 54 community college partners who participate in this program. The students alternate between the classroom and hands-on experience at either the sponsoring dealer or AC Delco Professional Service Center, and they take GM-specific training classes to prepare them to be entry-level technicians when they come out of the program. The course content is pulled as a subset from the General Motors Technical Dealer Training, and the student is also required to complete classes in math, English, and science to be able to complete a degree. And upon graduation, they earn an associate's degree in automotive technology or an equivalent, and they're also prepared to be an entry-level technician at a dealership, having completed 70% of the basic training standards we expect. So that's the $17 to $18 an hour job we talked about. GM supports this program not by giving direct financial support to the student, but by helping the community college deliver the program. We provide a stipend for graduation, very modest. The big piece of this program is really in the development of the technical curriculum and the donation of vehicles and engines and tools to enable the community colleges to deliver the curriculum in a good manner. We provide GM Service technical college materials so that the community colleges can develop their own curriculum. We provide ASEP instructors with free access to service information. Again, that's the instructions on how to carry out a repair procedure on a GM vehicle. And also TIS to Web, which is a delivery mechanism for service programming and diagnostic procedures. We provide that for free for use in training in their classrooms. We provide students with free access to the GM dealer training. We provide an annual stipend for tools for the schools, as well as I said, donating vehicles, engines, and other tools to the schools. And ultimately, we act as an advisor to the schools that work on this program. The 54 community colleges we participate with are spread geographically across the United States and Canada, and we produce 300 to 350 graduates a year. Admittedly, it's just a drop in the bucket compared to the demand that's out there. 10,000 at General Motors, 60,000 across the industry, but it is a good start. And many of these graduates from this program go on to become successful technicians at dealerships. But many others use this training to go on to other careers. Perhaps most notably is Pat Francis, who started as a technician at a dealership, worked his way up through different positions in the dealership, and ultimately became the owner of Country Chevrolet in Annandale, Minnesota. He's a dealer principal. Chris Simanison, Andrew Hepner, Todd Dawn, and Dale Tripp are engineers that work in my after-sales engineering group, who all started working as technicians having graduated from the GM ASEP program. And it's not uncommon for engineers to have had a background of working as a technician. It is great practical hands-on experience and gives them a real head start as they work in a career with an OEM like General Motors. And ultimately, many of the students or many of the engineers we have at General Motors started through either AS, Skills USA, or ASEP. And in fact, my boss, the General Motors Vice President of Customer Care and After Sales, Tim Turvey, is a former technician and a graduate with an automotive technology degree. This is a list of the 54 colleges. It's kind of an eye chart. It's available online, but I will highlight that two of the community colleges that are on the agenda for this week, Macomb County Community College and Cuyahoga Community College, are both partners of ours in this program, and I'm sure there's others in the room as well. I said that I wanted to focus a little bit on shifting gears. This doesn't really involve community colleges, but it's a program that we're very proud of because it's another feeder program for us for technicians. The U.S. Army is forecasting that they're going to reduce active service personnel by 150,000 over the next few years. And so Shifting Gears is a program we developed in partnership with the U.S. Army and Raytheon and introduced in 2014. It is a specific 12-week GM-focused technical training course that's available to qualifying active duty soldiers who are within 6 months of their estimated discharge. Participating soldiers have demonstrated technical acumen. They have relevant military experience in automotive or repair. They have an interest in automotive, and they passed an assessment course to qualify for this. And ultimately, upon graduation, they have the same qualifications as anybody who's graduated from the General Motors Automotive Service Education Program. 70% of the minimum training standards, and the ability to enter a job as an entry-level technician. I commented that other OEMs also participate in this. GM is hardly alone, and this is an industry-wide issue where we have a shortage of technicians. As you can see, Ford has their asset program, the Toyota 10 program is out there, BMW has a STEP program, Fiat Chrysler, that's who Mopar is, has the CAP program, there's Subaru University, there's American Honda PACT program, And then Mercedes-Benz, Volvo, and Nissan all partner with UTI, the for-profit institution I commented on, to deliver technical training to their students. And ultimately, every one of these OEMs has programs very similar to what I detailed with the General Motors Automotive Service Education Program. So ultimately, these partnerships enable us to help each other. We help schools ensure programs are up to date and will prepare students for today's industry needs. We ensure that the instructors are continuously networking and training with professionals and service individuals, and we help students ensure they're being properly trained in alignment for today's industry needs and to prepare to be qualified entry-level technicians. And ultimately, these partnerships help us strengthen the pipeline. We help instructors interface with training managers and service individuals to ensure they're teaching an accurate current knowledge base. This helps employers match up qualified entry-level talent to openings that they have, and allows us to recruit technicians in the local market. And it helps training managers network, learn, and share best practices and innovations with other trainers. So as I wrap up, I hope that you'll remember these things. One, being an automotive technician is a viable career choice with some good income possibilities. Number two, there's a real strong industry need for graduating technicians. There's jobs waiting for these students. 10,000 at General Motors, minimum being conservative, 60,000 across the industry. And there are currently strong industry and college partnerships in place to help students train and become technicians in the field. So in summary, my ask for you is that you just remember that automotive technician is a viable career choice, and you present it as you're presenting other options to the students at your community colleges. Thank you very much. So now I would like to invite the panel to come and join me on the stage, please. Welcome. Thank you. Anywhere is good. Welcome. All right. And
Middle?
two more.
The end?
Okay, good.
With me?
Okay, well then I guess I'll sit in the middle. Is that okay? So have a seat. And before we get started, can I ask the panel to introduce themselves? So why don't we start with you, Matt?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. My name is Matt Gandel. I'm president of Education Strategy Group, a national consulting organization that works with K-12, higher education, and workforce to try to align education to workforce, just what we're going to be talking about today.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Greg Williams, and I serve as president of Odessa College.
Hexquex Kisukikyet. I'm Sandra Boham. I am the president of Salish Kootenai College on the Flathead Indian Reservation in Montana.
Good morning. I hope everyone's enjoying their time here at Gaylord Opryland. My name is Jennifer Bracken. I'm the Director of Human Resources of this beautiful resort.
Good morning. My name is Audrey Hutchinson, and I'm the Director of Education and Expanded Learning at the National League of Cities. It's an organization, the oldest and largest organization representing mayors, council members, and other local elected officials across the United States. We represent cities on a range of issues, including issues around education and workforce.
Welcome, and thank you for joining me on stage. So my first question is to the whole panel. What do you see as the biggest challenge or challenges to creating a talent pipeline? I'd like to go first. Looks like we have a volunteer.
This is going to be fun. First of all, I want to say I'm delighted to be part of this panel. I've spent 7 years of my life working in a community college, City University of New York, Borough of Manhattan Community College. So I guess some CUNY people are here. So I know the power of community colleges in the work that I do with the National League of Cities. So in terms of challenges to the talent pipeline, what we're seeing across the country is, young people coming out of the K through 12 system underprepared. And I'm not saying this as a blame game because my work is all about partnerships and how we work together. Young people who have dropped out of the system, but see the potential, and adults who have not yet completed their college education, because we know the power of that credential or that degree in terms of earning power. And from where I sit, the contribution to the economic base, the strong workforce that businesses need, and just the power of partnership to create alignment among the different systems to get us back on track, with school districts working together, colleges and universities working together, along with other community partnerships, businesses, and Chamber of Commerce's, among others.
Okay. Does anybody else want to?
I'll jump in. David, I would say that we have a number of challenges, obviously, but if you ask me what the largest one would be, I would say that it is resources. If you think about it, the students we serve, many of them, especially in that gap who we're not reaching, they are under-resourced, underfunded, and don't feel that they are able to go to college. Many of them, they don't understand what we have to offer. Some of them are afraid to even start the process, and we have to continue to reach out to them. In addition to that, many community colleges are underfunded, and also technical colleges are underfunded, under-resourced. From your presentation, you talked about all the technology that one needs to have with some of the new innovations with automobiles, for example. I mean, yours is a perfect example. If we can't keep up with the times, if we don't have the same technologies that GM has, then how can we prepare individuals to do that work on GM vehicles? So we have to have resources. And I know that we need to spend money on medical schools and all of these others. I'm very supportive of that. But we also need to spend money on our community colleges. It's very important.
Fully agree. All right. So go ahead, Matt.
Let me jump in here. Can I start with an opportunity and then get to challenges? So I think this is exactly the right time to be having this conversation. Really appreciated your presentation to kind of paint the picture of the rapidly evolving working world that our young people are entering. 55 million jobs that will be created this decade, 40 million of them will require a post-secondary degree or credential. That's about almost 75%. And if you look at the jobs created since this last recession, Great Recession that we had, 99% of those jobs that pay relatively well to support a family require a certificate or degree post-high school. So the environment you're describing and the environment that's out there in most industries today suggests that the work you're doing here in the community college sector is even more critical than ever if we can make this link to the workforce, because this degree or credential that you potentially are offering is make or break for young people if we're going to not leave them behind, and older people, frankly. So I just want to paint that picture, and I view that as an opportunity if we can communicate that clearly and take a few other steps. It's a great moment to be making this connection with the workforce. 3 challenges, though, I want to put forward. One, there are thousands and thousands of post-secondary credentials that we offer in this country. Not all of them have value in the labor market. So for me, one challenge is making sure we in this sector, and frankly in the 4-year sector and the K-12 sector, can do a much better job understanding which credentials have value in the labor market, work with the employer community in our regions and in our states to understand where the opportunities are and which credentials are going to open the doors to those opportunities, and honestly look at which credentials are not, and then have the courage to change the programs in our systems. I talked to a community college president a few weeks ago who went from 150 program offerings down to under 100 recently after doing a labor market analysis like that required closing down some programs or aggregating some that had a lot of similarities based on a new conversation with employers. So to me, that would be challenge number 1. Challenge number 2, community college sector can't do this alone. It requires really strong partnerships with K-12 systems to build the pipeline up through, and then ultimately with 4-year and workforce partners, and collaboration can be hard, but I think it's really essential that we do this by locking arms across the sectors. And then the third thing I want to mention is the information flow to parents and students needs to be improved. You could think of that as career advising, but if we can't help educate young people and when they get older about what these opportunities are and what pathways and programs are going to open the doors to them, we're going to have a really hard time solving this problem. So we've got to spend more time on career advising, and that has to be done in an aligned fashion all the way down through K-12. The Strata Foundation, just one thing I want to point people to, put something out with Gallup within the last year, an analysis or a survey of people in the workforce who had gone to college, and a lot of questions about choices of majors and how they got the advice to go into those majors. And it turned out the number one source of information that they valued after they got into the job market was having interactions with people in jobs and in the workforce as they were being advised. The problem is very, very few young people had those opportunities to have that engagement. Most of the sources of information they had were not as valuable to them, and they would have made different decisions if they could go back and choose their majors all over again and their pathways in post-secondary. So if we could learn from that data, I think we could do a better job solving this advising problem.
Okay. Is it okay if, do you want to go, Sandra? Please.
I'm just going to add a little bit to what the two gentlemen to my right have said. Our college is in a very rural place, as we're a tribal college, as are most of the tribal colleges. There are 36 of us. One of the bright spots is that we have been reaching out to our local high schools and have really increased our dual enrollment and concurrent enrollment opportunities, which has been, I think, hugely successful because we're talking to students who not only do they not know what their career path will be, they don't know what the options are because what they see is pretty limited in terms of what the opportunity is. The second piece has to do with resources, and that is that the workforce is telling us that we need short-term, intense training programs to get students in, skilled, and into work. But those training programs don't come with financial aid availability because they're less than a year, some of them. We've been doing some really creative work to try to address those issues, but it is a challenge because as you train someone in a very specific kind of career path, those paths do change once they get into the work, and they do need to be able to be adaptive. And so that's one of the areas that we look at all the time is how can we create these very short-term programs and yet have them resourced for students.
Great. Jen?
Yes, thank you. From an employer's perspective, I think the greatest opportunity that we have with addressing our talent pipeline is really with these young adults coming into the workplace, making those connections even through the K through 12 and into the colleges and community colleges of what the expectations are in the workforce and what you're coming into from an industry, whichever industry you choose, because a lot of times there is that disconnect. And we're not able to meet the expectations of the young adults coming into the workforce, which causes a rub between what their expectations are and how they want to grow their careers, and from us with an employer. So.
Great, thank you, Jen. So I'm going to move on to the next question. This one is for Greg and Sandra. From a president's perspective, how do your individual colleges work with employers to ensure that you are preparing students for jobs available in your communities?
I can start.
Okay.
It all begins with relationships. It's all about, and also setting the tone of what we're willing to do and what we're able to do. We start by letting our employers know that we're here for them, along with being here for our students. We're available, and we will work with them in any way possible. We will, in addition to that, I serve on the workforce board locally in our community, which is connected to state programs. We're very active with the Chamber of Commerce. We also work closely with all the business owners who are willing to come and have conversations, which we pull together. So We're always communicating, always looking for ideas, always looking for ways to develop and change our curriculum. In addition to that, and I think a really important aspect of what we do would be the advisory committees. We have a number of people on our campus who are working on advisory committees and who we bring in employers to serve on those committees representing the different sectors. So that is critical. Also, we have our continuing education people who are doing a lot more of the short-term work, and they are able to go out and make connections, knock on doors literally, and bring that information back to us. So we're multi-leveled in the way we approach this, and I'll share a quick story. There was a small company that came knocking on our door called Chevron. And that small company needed a program to do specific things around automation and instrumentation. They literally put me on their private jet, flew me to a place where there was a program that they needed. I was able to come back, work with our team, and we have put together a program. I think it's only one of two in the country that provide the service that they need, the education that they need for their students. And it's similar, I use the example that it's similar to nurses in a hospital, what these students are able to do in the energy industry. They're highly employable. I think within 4 or 5 years, they're making over $100,000 a year, flexible situations for them. They can work either in energy or outside of energy. But I think that's the key, is to connect, listen, and continue to develop relationships.
Great, thank you, Greg. Sandra?
The relationships are critical. Our tribal organization about 5 years ago now did a comprehensive economic development study, and it involved all of the tribal organizations and public and private business owners within the interior reservation boundaries. And from that survey, all the employers and job service and a whole mix of folks, including the college, got together, and we meet fairly monthly and talk about what the needs are, the coming trends, the current needs, what is going away within our valley, and we identify areas that we need to fill in our local employment gaps. But we also send our students all over the country. We have students from everywhere, and so we are also frequently looking at national tribal trends and what those communities are going to need. And those are our priority programs. But we recently reached out to a partnership with Northrop Grumman, and we became a mentor protege with them. And our tribe has some fairly successful economic enterprises. One of them is called S&K Electronics, and they do a lot of government contracting. And so Northrop Grumman, the United States Air Force, S&K Electronics, and Salish Kootenai College entered into an agreement. We are the minority serving institution to provide the training to the workforce in advanced manufacturing, 3D modeling, so that they can meet these contracts. And we think that's going to be an exciting area for us because it's something that is not grant funded, which is one of our challenges. It is providing some very high level technical jobs for our graduates as well as in our community. And after we did that, we started getting phone calls from some outlying employers about if you can train students in these particular kinds of software, which we are because that's what we have to use to create these models, that they will hire them. And so that was an area we didn't know anything about until we got into doing it, and then we realized that there was a huge need in our area so that our students can have living wages, better than living wages. Most of them will make more than I do, and they'll be able to, have a successful career. But that was a shift for us. We had not thought of doing those kinds of things, and had we not had the opportunity to be mentored, probably wouldn't have done it. But I think what we've learned is that we have to be very nimble, and we have to be able to be responsive to workforce needs, and prepare students who can be nimble as well. And so keeping in touch, keeping in close, watching how things change in the world of work, and not forgetting about all the soft skills that students need as well. So that's what I would like to say.
Great. Thank you, Sandra and Greg. Great answers. My next question is for you, Jennifer. How do you work with local high schools and colleges, and do you provide work-based opportunities to students?
Yes, thank you. I'm very proud of the work that we do at Marriott International and here at Gaylord Opryland with connecting with the youth in our communities. We have very specific programs, actually starting through the K through 12 programs. We partner heavily with junior achievement here at this hotel and in this market. And then we also work with our high school. We have a local partner high school that's part of the Nashville Academies. And we have a named school over there. We have the Gaylord Opryland School of Hospitality with 2 different tracks, one in hospitality and one in the culinary arts side of that. We work heavily with the students over there. We start them as freshmen as they are deciding which career path they're going to take, which academy they're going to do their education in. By the time they're juniors, we invite them over here to do job shadows with all of our leaders and all the various different departments that we have. I think for us in hospitality, the biggest thing is making sure that when people are deciding on their career, that there's more than just culinary or checking people into the hotel. There's a wide range of professional careers that we have in our industry. So we work with the students, and then by the time they're senior, we do have internships that culminate in the end with a capstone project. And then we take it beyond that into the colleges. With Marriott International, we have a program called our Voyage program through our university relations team that goes out to the schools to recruit. And then locally in our communities, we connect with our local community colleges, again, to talk about our career, our industry, and have internships and entry-level management development programs.
Great. Thank you, Jennifer. My next question is for you, Audrey. Tell us about the National League of Cities initiative and what you've seen working with cities on post-secondary goals.
Yeah, thank you. So my work is focused on engaging mayors in this education enterprise. So let me just give you a little bit of background. In our recent 2017 report on the State of Cities Address, mayors have placed 36% of their State of Education speech focuses on education and the economy. They care about it even though they don't have control or authority over school districts for the most part, or colleges and universities, but they know that this is the engine that drives their economy, it drives their public safety agenda, and the quality of life agenda. So we have been doing this work for the last almost 2 decades, really engaging mayors. So the work we are currently engaged in, which David has just asked me to speak about, is our work thanks to the Kresge Foundation. I know the Kresge Foundation is here. Our work around building equitable pathways to post-secondary and workforce success. We have 5 community colleges that are involved in this work and working on the 6th one. We are working in the 3 Texas cities, Austin, Corpus Christi, and Houston. We're also in Charleston and Jacksonville, and of course, Nashville. And I will give a shout out for Nashville because after this panel, we'll be doing a workshop. So if you want to go deep in terms of the one city's effort, you'll hear more this afternoon. So we have been doing this work with mayors. Remember, we're a membership organization, so the entry point is city leaders. But we promote, from the National League of Cities perspective, a multi-sector, cross-sector partnership approach, focusing on really ensuring that youth and adults, especially in underserved areas, are getting the credentials they need. to fill the workforce needs in their cities, whether it's a college credential or a degree. We look at this work through an equity lens based on what I said. So we think about what policies and practices in cities that can be changed to enable everyone, as you know, as a city climbs, as a city moves up, that everyone from the bottom is also moving up with them. In terms of this 2-year technical assistance work that we've been doing with cities, we have had teams of mayor's offices, community colleges, Chamber of Commerce, the Association of Chamber Executives, some employers, United Ways, etc. It looks different in different cities depending on the need of that city. So we have been using data as a big part of that. We have engaged our partners, one of NLC's partners, LinkedIn, to travel with us around the country in these 6 cities to really take a hard look at the workforce needs and the skill gap in those cities, and to put everyone together, the colleges and universities, City Hall, and other partners together. We have also done some work with PolicyLink to really, using their National Equity Atlas, to really figure out what are some of the equity needs in these cities and target resources to make this work. So let me give you the highlights of what each city has been doing. When we think about the city of Corpus Christi, under the leadership of Mayor McComb, he has pulled together, I mentioned the multi-sector partnership. We have seen the city create a citywide education strategic plan, data being a big part, bringing stakeholders together to own the agenda and to really focus on a P16 lens. When we look at the city of Austin, they're focusing a lot of their attention around fastest completion because we know the data around that, and also really focusing on their underemployed population, really taking up middle skills jobs in those community. Mayor Turner in Houston, he's focused on really using summer jobs as a way of getting more young people as a hook to get more young people into the education pipeline. And I promise I won't be too long. Here in Nashville, you can hear that more of that story today. Mayor Barry's focusing on their Promise Zone, focusing on high school students and also adults who have some college degree. And we know that Nashville is, as is the case of Austin, is part of the Lumina Foundation Talent Hub. And of course, Jacksonville is also under the leadership of Mayor Len Curry, is also really looking at youth opportunities and how that can be linked to post-secondary, the community colleges being a big part of that. So that's a taste of how we are working together using the multi-sector partnership approach. One, thinking about setting goals, a citywide goals, so regardless of who the mayor is, this community can own it, using data to understand what the skills gap are and what the education needs are, and ensuring that many sectors are engaged to ensure that we have a community that is vibrant and can support its tax base. That's a very long presentation, but you asked me.
Thank you, Audrey. Okay, my next question is to you, Matt. Your organization keeps its pulse on K through 12 and higher education, and you look at how federal policies impact education, such as the Every Student Succeeds Act. What do you see as the opportunities for colleges to make better connections with K through 12?
Thank you. I'm glad you referenced the Every Student Succeeds Act, ESSA, as they call it in the K-12 sector, because that has had a big influence, I think, on the direction that states are moving in now with their systems. It's been about 2 years since it passed, and this past year, 2017, most states had to submit their final plans, and they had to rethink everything from student expectations and curriculum to program offerings to accountability systems and incentives and funding. A big change in this law was to make college and career readiness a central driver for K-12, whereas before I would argue it had been kind of peripheral, or in certain communities it was prioritized, but it wasn't kind of a required priority for all communities. ESSA has made that kind of the driving priority for high schools. So how that translates, as folks probably know, in the K-12 sector, there's a lot of accountability for results. There are standards, there are measurements, there are results that the schools are held accountable for performance on and improvement on. In the past, in high school, the main levers, or metrics, I should say, were graduation rates and then test scores. A lot of analyses were done about graduation, and you don't need me to tell you this, but just because you get a high school diploma does not mean you're ready for post-secondary opportunities, given the very, very high levels of remediation for traditional students coming right out of our high schools and, frankly, into your institutions. So graduation rates, not a great metric if you're looking for future door-opening opportunities for young people. So ESSA has pushed states to think about college and career-ready measures as a core metric. So for example, a lot of states now are building into their high school accountability models dual enrollment, early college, concurrent enrollment success for students. So the more students that take courses that earn them college credit while in high school, those high schools will perform higher on these accountability metrics that states have set up. So they're incentivizing partnerships, frankly, between high schools and colleges to build early post-secondary opportunities, and they're making that count for high schools, and they're encouraging growth in those areas, which is a big, big change. I think the vast majority of states now have that built into their accountability metrics for high school. Another example on the workforce side is industry-recognized credentials. So just in the last few years, I could count on one hand, probably 5 years ago, how many states gave credit to high schools for students earning industry-recognized credentials in higher wage fields. Now over half the states in the country are making that a metric, a success metric for high schools. So not only are they emphasizing early college courses and advanced placement and rigorous courses such as those, but the earning of an industry-recognized credential in a field that's viewed as kind of higher wage, high demand in the state will now count. The schools will get points for this. And in states where they've done this in the past, like Kentucky, they've seen a huge uptick in the number of young people who go into pathways that can lead to those credentials because they're now being valued by the system. So I think there's a great opportunity for community colleges to partner with their local school systems and within their state structures and take advantage of these new accountability metrics coming out of ESSA to beef up your collaboration with high schools. The second thing I want to mention is there are new dollars that can be used for those programs in ESSA. In Title IV of ESSA, there is an emphasis on using funds that states and districts will get to build stronger partnerships with colleges and create more opportunity for early college dual credit and industry-recognized credentials to be earned. So you could access some resources building partnerships with your local colleges. So that's, I think, a big, big change in terms of federal law. And I'll be the first to say I don't think I'd look necessarily to the federal government in Washington for leadership on these issues. They put a law out there. It gives states maximum flexibility. I would be looking to work with your state leaders to make sure that the implementation of these programs is done in a way that can really boost college enrollment and alignment with workforce in the ways that we're talking about here this morning. The second thing I want to mention, there are a lot of philanthropic organizations that are making investments that I think you can also take advantage of. We've heard about Lumina. Obviously, Lumina has made a big, big bet on trying to increase credential attainment rates in the U.S. up to a 65% goal. Most states right now are at 45 to 55%, and they're making investments in building statewide strategies and also in local communities to try to help scale credential attainment with a real eye toward credentials that have value. So they're obviously a great partner. But I also want to mention one other, which is the J.P. Morgan Chase Foundation has made big, big investment in career preparation around the country. They've given large grants to about 10 states to transform their career preparation pathways starting in K-12 through community college and into the workforce. And there's a lot of work going on in those 10 states to rethink all the things that we're here talking about this morning. And they're also making local investments. They've given grants to Denver, Detroit, New Orleans, and they're looking for other cities, I think. So they're really focused on these talent pipeline issues, and they understand to do that, Sometimes you have to give resources to start and try something new and kind of turn the corner in these partnerships in ways that are hard to do from scratch. So I'm very excited because I think the table is set in a lot of places for this collaboration to happen. If as leaders in the community college sector, we go out and build those partnerships, access those resources, and show that we can get young people and returning adults more and more into these credential programs that pay off in the workforce.
Great, thank you, Matt. I think that's all the time we have for questions. I want to thank the panel for being with us, Audrey and Jennifer, Sandra, Greg, and Matt. Thank you for being with us today. Thank you. Pam? Well, I was going to head this way. All right, thank you.
Thank you, David. And thank you to all our panelists for a thoughtful and information-packed discussion. Now we turn to the presentation of the Community College Financial Empowerment Award, supported by One Main Financial. We appreciate the ongoing support of One Main Financial for this annual award, which recognizes an Achieving the Dream Network College for outstanding achievement and innovation in developing and scaling an effective financial empowerment program. This year, the award was open to ATD network colleges in the states of California, Florida, Georgia, Illinois, Kentucky, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, Tennessee, Texas, and Washington, D.C. To announce this year's winner, please welcome Trish Weaver, the Corporate Communications and Philanthropy Director for One Main Financial. Trish is also a member of the company's Philanthropy Leadership Council.
Thank you, Pam. As a former community college student and woman who had to pay her way through college, I'm thrilled to announce that the winner of the 3rd Annual Achieving the Dream Community College Financial Empowerment Award is North Carolina's Davidson County Community College. With its 2 campuses and more than 50 curriculum programs, Davidson serves 16,000 students each year. Of those students, nearly 75% receive some sort of financial aid. Knowing the financial barriers that their students face, leaders at Davidson offer 3 different programs to help students develop skills to achieve greater financial and academic stability. The Single Stop program is a program that connects students with social services and financial assistance. Through Single Stop, students get help with a variety of needs. As a result, an impressive 91% of participating students have stayed enrolled in their classes at Davidson. The college also partners with an online financial program called Excel, which helps students who have college loans learn how to manage their debt. Because of this program, the percentage of student borrowers in default at Davidson dropped by 4%. The 3rd program is the College Transition Center, which puts students on the path to achieving their education and career goals by strengthening their skills in math and reading. With its success, the Transition Center has become a model that will scale to all North Carolina community colleges by the year 2020. And now I'd like to invite President Mary Ritling and the Davidson County Community College team to join me on stage and accept this year's award.
Well, good morning. I am honored by this recognition from One Main through this Financial Empowerment Award, and grateful for the funds that will allow us to continue to meet our students where they are and support them in the best way for completion of a credential and their pathway to a better and brighter future. Our story at Davidson is about commitment to our students. From the initial point of connection and even beyond the point where they walk across the stage at graduation. Joining me is the team, our ATD coaches, and Davidson County Community College's shakers and movers. These are the folks who every day, they are the boots on the ground. They are the inspiration that make these programs happen. They understand our students, and they often come to me and say, we have to do something. I'm merely the strategist, the somebody who kind of puts the ideas together. But it is this team that really makes it happen and the results for our students. So let me tell you a little story. A few days ago, I was prepared to come to this meeting. I had a very elaborate speech. I had a real lovely outfit that I was going to wear. And then yesterday happened. And as they say, you know, the happens. And so my flights were delayed. My flights were canceled. I arrived here late last night, and I had no luggage. But greeting me was this team with a nightshirt and other things that I needed, including an adult beverage. This is an example of the dedication of this team. They not only make good things happen for the college president, they also make good things happen for our students. You have a brochure on your table that speaks about our programs, and there will be a number of presentations over the next few days. They also reminded me about something that's really important, that we must believe in what we do, and it isn't how we look. So I may not look very presidential today. I will tell you that in my heart, I know that we all are doing that great work for our students. At DCCC, we view our students in a holistic way, beyond just their presence and performance in a classroom, to their hopes and dreams for their lives and their future. We recognize the same approach doesn't work for all students, because not all students follow the same pathway. I want to thank you for recognizing our hard work and the dedication of this group and the love we have for our students. We also are appreciative of your recognition that at Davidson, we have courageous conversations. We make courageous decisions, and we take courageous risks, only to make sure that there's a difference in our students' lives. We empower our students to achieve their dreams. Thank you very much.
So ladies and gentlemen, the Davidson team. And Mary, should we look half as good as the way you do right now on our best day? Thank you, Trish, and One Main Financial for your support, and congratulations again to Davidson County Community College. Before we conclude and go off to our concurrent sessions, I would like to recognize the presidents and the chancellors in the room. Would you all stand? Woo! And I can attest to you, this is the one conference that you know that the presidents and the chancellors will be working just as hard as the staff. They do make us get up at 7. And I would like to also recognize our new leader colleges, our newly certified leader colleges. Would you stand and be recognized, please? And then all of our other leader colleges who've been with us for a while. Where are you? And finally, I want to alert you to the William E. Trueheart Forum on Equity and Excellence, and it's entitled White Privilege 101. It is the spotlight session today at 2:45. And as we go about doing our work today on student success and strategies and everything else that's out there, let's keep equity at the heart of what we do. This is HED's heart and soul, and I hope that we all share that and keep that in mind at all times as we go about helping our students. So we are now adjourned. Enjoy your day, the first full day of our sessions.